Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. Spencer and Zach back in the booth for our regular duo cast. We have a lot of episodes that are getting posted with a lot of guests, so let us know who you want to hear. But Zach, what's up? Tell everybody what we were just talking about.
What it do? What it do? Back in the booth, day 9, 75 hard. Still getting after it. I'm still warming up for my outdoor walk. But yeah, super fired up for today's episode with this me and Spencer talking about what we've learned last year and those type of things. But to set the bar to catch y'all up to speed of our conversation that happened all of 2 minutes ago. The church I go to and belong to, they do a yearly event that they call Prepare. This is Morgan and I's first time getting to go through it, but the idea is to do 3 days of some sort of fasting. It has to be food. There's no copping out and doing a social media fast or those type of things. Just fasting sugar. It's got to be, you're either not eating a meal a day, you're doing a bone broth fast, you're doing a Daniel fast, or you're just going straight water fast. And each night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they've actually had guest speakers come into the church and really, pour into us. And last night, Monday night, Pastor Steve Robinson from Louisiana, of all places, dropped an absolute bomb of a sermon. Really had me contemplating and thinking and deep in thought, which is what any pastor should be doing to the congregation. But the lesson was on the walls of Jericho in the book of Joshua, chapters 5 and 6. And it really had me thinking of what walls have I had to overcome and let fall by the wayside, and then what walls do I still have, whether that be mentally, physically, spiritually, business wise. What are those walls? And if you are unfamiliar with the story of the walls of Jericho, then definitely recommend reading Joshua 5 and 6. I don't know if we have time to go through it today. But Spencer, I leave that to asking you, what are the walls, and you had an interesting take on this, but what are the walls that you foresaw yourself overcome in 2023? And then when you really look into it, what are the walls that you still need to overcome to really get to the promised land?
Yes, I mean, when you say walls, right, and you say like overcoming a wall, I don't know if you guys ever watched Prince of Persia, but if you ever watched the like the scene where he like scales the walls and stuff, where he's like climbing up the walls and he's got his homies in the back that like shoot the arrows into the wall and he climbs them up. Those are cool, but I think of like overcoming a wall and like overcoming obstacles kind of like in that sense, right? But whatever you ask, like what are some of the walls that like we first overcome in our first year? Dude, I don't think that really like you overcome anything in your first year. You only realize what you need to overcome, right? Like, I feel like for me in our first year, dude, we crushed our first year. Like, I can't say that it wasn't a success, even though I feel like it's not. But I've really been doing a lot of reflecting recently on, dude, why do I feel that our first year wasn't a success? And it's because I understand and I've actually have the vision for my full potential and what the impact that we can really have and success that we can really achieve. And I think that's why I don't feel satisfied like after our first year, is because like how can you try something once and be like that was good enough, right? Like whenever you cook and you're like, man, this is pretty good, oh, I can make it better. Whenever you lift weights, like you're like, wow, I feel really strong, I can be stronger. Whenever you run, you're like, wow, that was really good, I could run faster. So it's the same thing in business. It's like, wow, that was really good. I was just trying it out. I feel like our first year of trial, that's just our sample, right? You don't know if you actually like something until you do it consistently. You don't know if you're actually good at something until you do it consistently. You can there's no difference. Like if everybody that just threw a ball up in the air and the ball went through the hoop, considered himself a basketball player, then everybody would be in the NBA. But the fact that you can make a shot once does not make you NBA caliber. So the fact that you can have success once in business in a year, the fact that you can help one person, it's great. It means that you have the potential. It doesn't mean that you're actually good at it, right? When it's reproducible, when it's consistent, when you can execute, that's how you know that you're good at it. And so I feel like in our first year, dude, if you're trying to find walls that you're going to climb, it's like there's a sandstorm or there's a blizzard on the outside of the wall, and you're really just looking for the wall. You're trying to find your destination. Once you have your eyes on the destination, once you have your vision set, then that's when you have your obstacles, right? But dude, I went into practice thinking I was going to have like a hippie yoga zen practice, and now I have a raging kids neurological like eat suckers, do dances, and poop in your pants practice. Like that's the kind of practice I have. So, I mean, dude, things have done like a complete 180. And so I feel like in my first year of business, I was just like spinning around and trying to find things that kind of stick, right? And now that we have a grasp, now that I understand that I have potential, I can see where I want to go. And when I can see where I want to go, then I can see where my obstacles are, right? You can look on the map, like we live in Dallas, right? So you can pull up Apple Maps at any point in time and pull up a map of Dallas, and you can see red and yellow lines all over the place because no matter where you're at in DFW at any time, there's going to be some sort of traffic jam somewhere. None of those are relevant to you unless they're in between you and your destination. So it doesn't matter what challenges people overcome, whether you have a kid in the first part of practice, whether you open your practice in COVID, whatever you blah blah blah. What you can name anything. None of those challenges are relevant to you unless they stand in the way of where you want to be and where you are and where you want to go, right? And so you can learn from other people's challenges to not put yourself in that situation, but it does not mean just by listening to us or having a mentor, you won't come with your other challenges. And so I feel just now that I have direction in our first year, now I understand what stands in my way between, and I'm going to say the same thing. Like I was just figuring it out in 2024. Like we're going to say the same thing every single year because your vision should get bigger and bigger and bigger the more that you learn, the more that you achieve, and the more that you succeed, and the more experience you have. Your destination changes. So that's kind of how I feel.
No, I think you definitely nailed it. There's definitely quite a few things I think you definitely did overcome. And I'll challenge you a little bit there. But from I mean, just that last little bit that you said, where we're gonna look back and no matter what we accomplish in 2024, I think we both have big goals for this year. No matter what we accomplish or the people we add to our team, those type of things will still come December be like, man, I could have done more. Um, and I think that's not necessarily a wall. I don't know if that's I don't think it's a self-limiting belief or like a wrong mindset. I'm very much that's a healthy mindset because that means you need to grow. But I know for me, one thing that I really had to overcome, which had the help of our coach Matt Morris, was price increase, was value increase, and I didn't just increase my prices, but I also increased or up leveled myself in the way at which I can convey the amount of value we offer in our office. Yes, we're adjustment specific, but with what we do in our office, there's a lot more that goes into just the adjustment, right? There's one-on-one mobility training, there's cervical traction, there's a movement workshop that we do. There's progress exams, and progress exams are super important. I think that's one thing I realized I wasn't charging for, right? But those take one time away from me, but those are so vital when it comes to patients. There's so many people. It's amazing hearing stories of people that have seen chiropractors and never once did they have a progress exam.
Yep. I think, yeah,
Never
okay.
once.
So
But
kind of,
overcoming that ability or that inability to see that there's so much more value in our office was a big wall to overcome.
yeah. I feel like, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
As you say that, like the tangible things, yeah, finding an office is hard. Getting an accurate brand is hard. Like I feel like getting my message across. I feel like I was talking at like such a really complicated level. Like we're a neurofocused pediatric specialist. Like blah blah blah. Nobody cares about that. So those are challenges, right? Like not having enough space, trying to find office manager, like finances is huge. But I feel like all of those things are really like there were points that kind of ping ponged me into a direction, right? So when I say like I don't feel like I really overcame anything, I feel like I was able in 2023, I filtered out a lot of things that were not congruent with me. I feel like I found direction in 2023, right? Because there's still so much to do. Like we just hired Steph to be our coach for the new year, like one-on-one, and the whole thing is a full practice audit. And it's crazy when people are at such a higher level than you, the things that they think about. And so she's like making us audit our practice and give her all of the details. And there are so many times where I have to like swallow my pride and like shove the ego down and say like I've never thought of that. I don't have that system in place. We don't do that. And when she's like, "Why? Or is there a reason that you're not doing those things for me?" My answer is just always, "I didn't know about it." And so that's why I feel like now is the time to like really overcome because we have somebody that a guide in our story that can actually take us to the like to the promised land of where we want to go. But there's those are challenges to overcome. Um, versus like in your first year, it's just like a whirlwind of like figuring it outness
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
those
And
things.
definitely in that first year, it's, I mean, I've said it many times, and um, my other coach Ryan Ryder says it best. You know, you're basically, he says it specifically with marketing, but you know, in that first year, probably for the first 5 years, maybe 10 years, we're just, you know, for lack of better words, we're throwing shit up on the wall and seeing what sticks. You know, there's so many different ways to skin a cat that you gotta figure it out and what works for you.
Yeah. Well, that's a thing too of like kind of what I wanted to bring up today about like what works for us, right? Because there are all kind of challenges to overcome, and there are all kind of things, there are all kind of walls that are going to be in our way. There are going to be obstacles, right? I think there's a book called like The Obstacle is the Way.
Yep.
And that'll I guess will be on the list. Which shout out Spotify for adding the audiobooks to it. Zach and I were both like kind of going hard about Spotify's audiobooks. Dude, if you guys own a Spotify account and you're not listening to audiobooks for free right now, like you have to get on that because like there are so many books that are like game-changing, million-dollar creating strategies that you can have access to for free. And so like after you listen to us, toss on some audiobooks because it's in the same spot, right? Like it's where everything is. And Spotify is like awesome like audio platform that like they're just really building. It's so great. But I've listened to a lot of things, so I have a lot of things like going through my head right now. But what I wanted to talk about today, and I think it goes hand in hand with you talking about overcoming obstacles, is the ability to learn something, to realize that there's something to do, there's an obstacle to overcome, and to take action on it. Like whenever I was thinking about like what could we call the episode, it's something corny that came in my head was like more doing, less chewing. We all
Mm.
like see an issue in our business or in our life or in our relationship and our fitness and all of those things. And we always are going to chew on it before we start doing it. And really, hesitation is the enemy of action. And so it's a difference between like thought and strategy, right? And you can chime in at any point in time that you want, Zach. But I've learned this a lot in cold plunging because the water gets no warmer the longer
Nope.
you wait.
Nope.
It's not moving, it's not going away, it's not going to turn into a hot tub, and the time is not going to change either.
Yeah, whether you're doing 2 or 3 minutes,
It
it's not
doesn't
more, it's not less.
matter.
It's the hesitation. That's the hardest part.
You have made a commitment to doing this thing, and it's simple. Get in the water, get out. That's it. Start the timer, get in the water. When the timer's done, you get out. That's it. It's literally a dip. And like it's Zach and I always talk about the hardest thing is the 25 minutes it takes to psych yourself up in getting in. And so
Yep.
now I have like the 5 breath allowance. I can sit
Mm.
there, I can take 5 breaths, and then I have to get in. And so I can waste 3 of them standing outside of the tub. But by the time I breathe 5 times, like 5 deep, like Wim Hof type breaths, all of my like my whole body all the way up to my shoulders have to be under the water.
Which I
And
know, like I know with cold plunging, Right. It's cold plunging, I think I haven't met anyone that's like, yeah, like cold plunging comes naturally to me. Like I
No.
don't like myself up. But what's interesting is other than cold plunging, there are so many things. Like for me, I don't really hesitate when it comes to getting in 140 degree, 160-degree dry sauna. Like to me, that's a lot
No.
of fun. But I've been doing that since undergrad, right? Like I've been doing that since I was 19, 20 years old. And when you were just talking about the cold plunge, it made me realize that there are a lot of people that getting in the sauna for just 2 minutes, like that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there are so many things, you're working with Steph. And so many like when I was on a one-on-one coaching call with Ryan, he's big on corporate workshops, and that's something that works really well in the UK, and something he finds when practices implement that it crushes. And I have a huge hesitation to even reaching out to businesses, because we have, I mean, Colleyville, South Lake, Grapevine, Euless, all these towns around us. There are big corporations with 50, 100 employees that we reach out to HR, maybe they say no, but there's a hesitation because what if one of them says yes? They're like, yeah, you can come in next week. Now I got to prep for this presentation. I got to be a 27-year-old. I wasn't wearing shoes in my practice just a little while ago. Nothing wrong if you're not wearing shoes in your practice. That's just not my thing anymore, because I hated going through socks. Um, I don't like wearing a suit. I don't like wearing a tie. I don't really like never wanted to work in a cubicle, never wanted to be in an office, that type of thing. So I have to overcome that objection, right? But just like 18 years ago, 9 years ago, when I first got in a sauna, that was really difficult at the time, just to get 2 to 5 minutes in. But nowadays, like 15 minutes, I'm like, this was fun. Like I'll see you again tomorrow. And so I'm having to teach myself, okay, I need to reach back out. And this was a really good conversation just in and of itself for me, to realize what am I chewing on and not acting on.
Yeah. I'm actually doing a corporate workshop March 2nd. I
Nice.
scheduled it. It's with this. It's like so out of line for me, but it's really not at the same time. Like I want to get into more like public speaking stuff later on. And someone asked me, like came up to me and was like, "Hey, will you do this speech for my company? Because I feel like you understand the role of the nervous system better than anybody that I've ever met." And I was like, "Wow, that's crazy!" Like, and I said, let me think about it. And my initial answer was yes. And the only thing I really needed to do, because I'm really bad at booking things on top of each other, and I just didn't want to make that commitment there. But the whole time that I was thinking, quote, about doing it, I was really just trying to talk myself out of why I shouldn't go and
Yep.
do this workshop.
Yep.
And so I was thinking about that, uh, like while I was in the sauna, and I do my cold plunge after I get out of the sauna, and
Cheater. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
and so that's kind of what came up to me. I was like, man, I'm so uncomfortable. And really, like, I just have to do it. And so I was thinking, like, what am I just waiting for something to happen for me to act when really it's just standing right in front of me and I just have to grab it and go. And because that's how cold plunging is, dude. Like, you stand there and you look at the water and there's nothing that is going to happen. Like it's different than like it's different than free diving. Like if you've ever like cliff jumped and stuff, like there's a lot of fear and anxiety around there because like there could be things that are super dangerous. You don't know where you're gonna land, all of those things. But a cold plunge is literally a 3 foot tub. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes me 25 minutes to sit in water. And then like I can only get my cold plunge down to like 60 degrees. So it's not even that cold. So like I'm just being a wiener. And so now I've incorporated my 5 breath rule into cold plunging, and it's
Yeah.
starting to translate over into like life and just
Yeah.
practice in general.
It's reminds me, and I think you're doing a great job with the 5 breaths. Mel Robbins has a very similar thing. She calls it the count to five, where
Yep.
she realized it when her and her husband were going through large amounts of stress. Business wasn't going well. Um, she was on a like big NBC or CNBC type, weekly production, and that got dropped and all these things. And she was just caught herself in this deep depression, not wanting to even get out of bed. So she developed the 5 step rule where she counts to five and makes herself get up. Which, like, to be honest, my alarm goes off, and this is another thing that I chew on in the morning. My alarm goes off at Some days 5 a.m. and other days, 4 a.m. pending what I'm doing. And that's not like to brag. It's just like I got shit to do and I work better in the morning. Um, and so, but I'll lay in bed for 15, 20 minutes. So like I'm not actually getting up because I'm just chewing on, you know, it's a little bit chillier when I get out of the sheets, and then I gotta get my butt moving, get to the gym. And I find myself one that takes away time from me getting in God's word, which is a big goal of mine this year, is to be really diligent in that. Because I'll admit I just sit there on social media, scrolling Instagram, responding to DMs or whatever. Um, Scrolling Facebook, that type of thing. And it's again, it's another action that I chew on rather than just doing. So it's like one, I'm costing myself 15, 20 minutes of sleep. Why not just set the alarm a little bit later or actually get up and get after it?
Yeah, I mean, to bring it back to like things that we're hearing in church, like this weekend, our pastor was talking about like when you find obstacles or wins things, anxiety, fear, hesitation, all of those things, what you can do is give it a perspective. You have to say, okay, let me pause. Like, I feel anxious about posting this post on Instagram. I feel super like I get a lot of anxiety around posting things on social media. So that's why I don't. And it's why things are changing. So I'm building a strategy and I have a full year's content and I still don't want to do it. So I have to just do it. Um, so anyway, which is great. And then I have to think like, okay, I have to put it in perspective. And I have to think like I post this, we make these podcasts all the time, and like I'm talking for way longer, right? I need to talk for 7 seconds on Instagram. It's
Yep.
ridiculous. It's like my 3 foot tub. Anyway, you have to sit down and think like, oh, I feel really anxious going into this report, or I'm really scared I'm going to fail this test, or man, I've noticed I'm scroll. This is one for me. Man, I've noticed I'm scrolling on social media for a long time. Like I'm in a doom scroll right now. I notice it, right?
Hmm.
Because when you're aware, you have a choice. Um, and what you have to say is, okay, what is this doing for me, or what is this trying to do, and then what can I do about it? Right? And so when you're like on this doom scroll, and I notice it a lot, and I'm starting to notice it quicker and quicker now in the morning, like, oh man, I'm caught on my phone, like I'm in the dopamine loop.
Hmm.
Then I'm like, okay, what is this doing for me right now? Well, what it's trying to do is it's really me avoiding doing whatever work or making whatever call or creating whatever content or working on whatever I'm really supposed to be doing. It's keeping me distracted. And so I'm justifying my actions but with fear, saying like, "Oh, well, you know, I'm gonna just scroll here. I'm quote busy."
Yeah.
Right? And then what can I do about it? Well, I can replace it, right, with something else. So now I still bring my phone uh during my personal time. Uh
Yep.
and so I can like answer texts and emails and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But then whenever I go to Instagram, my trigger is when I open Instagram is I like made sure that I have a book that's next to me that I can see in my peripheral vision. So when I open Instagram just on habit, because we all know like there's those habits where you pick up your phone and you open Instagram by default.
Hmm.
Uh my trigger for that is like, okay, I've opened Instagram. Did I read my 10 pages today? And if I haven't read my 10 pages, then I'm not allowed any social media time. And
Yeah.
so then I just get off.
Yeah.
And
One thing that reminds me, I'm reading Atomic Habits right now for my 10 pages a day. And I'm upset with myself. This is just kind of funny. I'm upset with myself. It's one of like the probably top three personal development self-help books out there. And I was just like, so like not resentful, but I was like, I'm not gonna read it. Like everyone talks about it, it can't be that great. Kind of like if everyone's doing it, then it's not good. Um, but it's effing fantastic. Like it's a really, really good book. But one thing that I just read uh one night or 2 nights ago was admitting, one thing he talks about is how a lot of people, like you mentioned, will try to replace one thing with another, right? Like a lot of smokers will start biting their nails or they'll start like, and you're still doing these quote unquote bad habits, if you will. But what he really recommends and what research has shown to work is okay, if you know you're going to scroll your phone for 15 minutes in the morning, make that the reward for reading your Bible for 10 minutes,
yep,
right? You're still going to do it, but now give yourself something because one, you're going to get that dopamine hit because you did the action that is a struggle. Like for you, it's reading those 10 pages. So after you've read your 10 pages, now you get to scroll on Instagram, right? Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with scrolling for 15 minutes. Like for you and I can imagine as soon as you wake up and leave the house, you're on full blown work work mode and probably till 6:30, 7 o'clock, right? So for us, there's kind of that like hesitation to get up and go. But if you give yourself that reward, set that limit 10, 15 minutes, and then you're done and you're good to go and you got your fill. So you kind of get that double dopamine hit, but instead of trying to replace one with the other, you're now rewarding yourself with one. And that's not to say like don't bite your nails in the morning and then have a cigarette. Like I'm not trying to condone that. But I think y'all know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, for me, honestly, like I get nothing. Like I just like I like numb my situation with social media. Like social
Mhm.
media for me is just a distraction. And so actually I feel more rewarded and I feel more achievement whenever I put it down,
Mhm.
whenever I get off of it. I actually and then so I've made it like a thing to where also like I'll check my work Instagram first. And I'm trying to do this thing better where all of our new followers, I personally message them. Like we don't have like an automated thing, but I personally message them, like say, hey, thanks for the follow, just to kind of open that up.
Yep.
And so I do that. And so I can't switch to my I like just set all of these boundaries and stuff like for myself.
Mhm.
Like I can't switch to my personal Instagram until I message all of our new followers on the Empower Instagram and answer any DMs that I have there. So I just do that, right? And then
Nice.
okay, so then like I can look at the Empower Instagram, which is like my work Instagram, which means like my brand is interacting more with our community. And then that's where I can get like my social media fill, right? So it's productive. And so then I'll only switch to my personal one after I've done all that. But usually by the time that I'm like, oh, I'm on the work Instagram, then I'm like, I'm kind of over it now, and I'll put it down,
Yep.
right?
Especially too, because I would imagine the Empower social media page is not following the same things that Spencer on his personal page is following.
No, I made it a
Not like
pact to where our personal brand, our Instagram will only follow people who are potential customers. So like we're not
yeah,
following like I'm not following Gary V. I'm not following
yeah.
Sports Center. Like we don't follow you. We don't follow within chiropractic. At least I think we don't. But like we don't follow any of those pages because it's not productive for me to interact in an echo chamber with our brand, right? If I want to get those kind of things and I want to feel validated as a person with what I'm doing and see people who are doing similar things, then I'll follow you on my personal page. But our brand, it's like counterintuitive because the more that's the whole Instagram thing, but like
Yeah,
the more I interact with you, the more I'm going to see you. And the more I see you, the less I see potential customers. And so it's not productive. Um,
right, right. And I
so
think too that starts to build the algorithm and all these different types of things.
yeah,
Uh,
that's a whole different thing. But all that to say, um,
it
yeah,
isn't it. I mean, it is crazy. And one thing I get lost in, and I don't want to turn this into like a bro conversation, like just talking out of our buttholes, but like it does like trip me out sometimes just how addictive social media is.
yeah, that's because it's a dude. Okay,
And
listen,
they know how to do it. I mean,
it's a
I know
it's a
they know what they're doing,
it's a
but like,
story, right? So I've been listening to the Building a Story brand by Donald Miller, and I listen to so dude, that's what I'm talking about. The Spotify audiobook thing is you got to do more doing, less chewing, right? Because you always hear stuff in audiobook, you read stuff in an audiobook, and then you're like, oh, that's cool. Look how many books I've read, and then you don't do anything with the information that you're doing, and so like I've built these layers like off of the past three books that I've listened to. So in just for the start of the year, dude, we're 9 days in and I've listened to three books. And like I know it's not reading, but I've still absorbed all that information, right? Or at least I've gotten
what speed are you on?
what speed am I on? One.
Dang, good for you.
Yeah, I listen to it in the morning. I listen to it like I listen to them while like I brush my teeth and stuff because like when I get ready for the gym because it's so easy for me to um I feel like so my word of the year is understand, right? So I'm trying to understand what triggers me and what makes things tick in my systems, in my personal life, in our marketing, all those things. And so I'm really trying to like be really aware. So I've been carrying around a notepad and writing down my thoughts and writing down tasks that I have to do so I can like look back and be like, okay, what was I thinking about like this day and all those things. And and so my reward, if I write on every single page of this notepad, is I'm going to buy one of those digital notepads, the Remarkables, which they're like $500.
Yeah.
and I'm gonna buy like the top one and stuff. But if I can't commit to this free notepad, then it's not worth me spending all that money. So that's like a game for me to play too. But
Yeah.
in the morning, I don't want to get out of
Have
bed.
you, sorry, I rewarding yourself for overcoming a lot is always a good thing. I was curious, Morgan and I try to stick to Andy's recommendations as much as I can, but one thing she saw was for 75 hard, like having a reward for yourself. So like on the 25th day, if you complete it, giving yourself a reward that's about $25 and then 50 and then 75. Have you and Caitlin heard of that or talked about doing something like that?
No,
No. All right, never
because
mind.
I think what at least for me, my frame around 75 hard is not to prove to myself that I can do hard things or prove to myself that I can um stay disciplined. It's really the deciding factor of I'm about to get married. I'm about to make a commitment to Caitlin. Well, I've already proposed and we already do everything together, so it's kind of locked in. But I'm about to like in front of God and our family commit to somebody for my entire life. And if I can't take less than 3 months, which is shorter than a care plan that we ask people to get on usually, if I can't commit to myself for 75 days, I cannot commit to somebody for an entire life. And so if I can't build habits around committing to myself enough, and if I can't love myself enough and to eat well, educate myself, take care of my body, and push myself to to better myself physically, then I'll never be the husband that I want to be. Then I'll never do those things. So, in full transparency, I'm not doing the outdoor workouts just because that's not what I'm doing. Because my trade-off, I feel like, is I really need to work on my mobility, and the sauna and cold plunge is time for me to like build my knowledge. So I listen to all my books then. So I'm doing 25 minutes of pliability, 20 minutes sauna, 5 minute cold plunge. That's my second workout, and I do it every night. I won't miss. It's in my house here, and I just don't like the cold. And I feel like the trade-off between being like I worked out outside all the time is the reward of the health is better. That's my justification. So you can roast me if you want, but that's what I'm doing.
I'm not gonna roast you.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what I'm using 75 hard for because I'm more likely to get in the sauna or do a cold plunge or stretch after 75 hard than I am to go walk around outside for 45 minutes. Like it's just boring to me. And so I don't feel like it's a good habit builder like for my life outside. Like it would be something that I would do inside of the 75 days, but I don't really see myself like carrying that out after. So I feel like it's
So,
more productive.
so you're not doing 70, you're doing 75 medium.
I'm doing 75 schmedium, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not that hard. Um, but anyway, um, back to the Spotify book thing. I feel like we always like take these things from these books and we don't apply them, right? So I've stacked these layers, like from Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO. You got to build your knowledge. You have to build your skills, network, resources, and then reputation, right? And then I listen to the Rule of 10X by Grant Cardone, and like to do those things, you just got to go all in. And so I'm like all in, right? And now I'm on like building a story brand, right? And so really trying to find a guide and find somebody to take me to the next destination, right? Because we all want to be the hero in our own story. Um, and when you're a customer of somebody else, really they're the guide. You want to be the hero, right? Like if I just sat back and Matt built me $1 million practice and I just walked in, I'd feel super unfulfilled. But it's the fact that he guides me to get there. That's it, right? Like we can't do stuff for you, but we're trying to guide you with this podcast on the things that we're thinking about.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And you have to be the one to just like going all full circle here. Like you got to be the one you to take down those walls, right? Like no one's gonna do it for you. And I think that's one thing we can all get lost in, especially in school, as you start to put mentors and coaches and seminar speakers and all these people on a pedestal, and you're like, well, shit, like they're not the ones doing it for me.
Yeah, they're not gonna do it for you. Like, dude, people can lay you out a path. Like, dude, this is the thing. It's just like the cold plunge. The tub is there, the water is there. You have the
Yeah.
timer on your phone or on your wrist. All you have to do is go.
Yep.
And so that's kind of how I'm trying to set up my life is I'm trying to say this is the steps, this is the system, these are the posts, this is the interactions, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to make the only limiting factor my effort. And
Yep.
so you have to learn more to do that. There's like in the Steph coaching thing, this guy was talking about how he struggles to stay like he gets really motivated, but he struggles to stay disciplined. And when I
That's
was like, so when I was thinking about that, I was like, man, like, why? Because I feel like I used to be like that too. And I feel like I'm starting to overcome that maybe wall or obstacle. And I was thinking, like, okay, why do I feel different about this challenge than the other ones? And why do I feel like it's easier to stay disciplined? One, because it's new, and so that'll change. And so I see that with foresight and trying to fix that. But discipline really is just structure added to your motivation, right? Because there has to be something that sparked that motivation in you. And so when you feel that spark, that's a great time for you to write down. That's why I'm carrying my notepad around.
mm-hmm.
Uh, you
It's like
write
a
down those thoughts and then you,
BJ talking about thought flashes. They're the same thing.
yeah, and then you act on those thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have those thoughts, and then literally under all my daily thoughts, I have a task too. And so anytime I'm like, oh, I need to do that, oh, I need to do this, I write it down and I have to cross them off before I finish it. And I've been way more productive that way. But so when you feel motivated, build structure around your motivation. Okay, wow, I feel super inspired. I feel super motivated to do this thing. Okay, it's based off of an end goal, right? Oh, I feel super motivated to do more marketing because it's going to get me more clients. Okay, so if I want to get more clients, how many more do I want to get? 100. Okay, so I feel super motivated to get 100 more clients. How do I do that? Well, I got to post. If I post 10 times and I get one client, so that means I need to post 100 posts, and that'll be 10 clients. So I need to post 1,000 times to get my 100 clients. So how do I do that? You build a strategy. Boom, 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 boom. Right? So that's why strategy is different than chewing on things. But when you have structure, it's easier to stay motivated because then you're following through on the things that motivate you. And when you follow through on the things that motivate you, you get dopamine. When you get dopamine, you want continuous repetition. And whenever you get continuous repetition to get across to your motivations because you stay within your structure, then that's discipline, right? So when you have a structure around your motivation, the only limiting factor is either what you know because you don't know how to get there, or your effort, and that's it. So all I do, if I learn more and I try harder, like Jared says, then anything is possible, right? I can get whatever I want if I learn about how to get there and I try as hard as I can.
The only limiting factor is you.
Yeah,
That's
the obstacle is
the
the way.
the unfortunate but also amazing truth to our life journey, right?
Yeah, right. But there's so many people like you are the obstacle. You are your
Mhm.
wall. Like you have to break down your limiting beliefs. And I say this for myself. You have to break down your limiting beliefs. You have to do things that make you
I
uncomfortable.
mean, that's one thing you overcame in 2023, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you just 6 months ago, if you listened to yourself talking about books and reading and just like digesting audible book after audible book and pick it, like you wouldn't think that that would be possible that quickly.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, like you are the limiting belief, right? And so uh I refuse to lose to myself
Hmm.
because that means I quit. Like that's straight up it. Like I just can't quit.
And
Um
I think, really to wrap this up, I think we can use this podcast as a really good representation. Like when you and I started this a little over a year ago, within our first year, if you had, I think if when we sat down in my office that first day we recorded,
oh dude,
right,
it was bad.
it was bad. But if you told us in that same year that we would have on Tony Ebel, Dan Sullivan, Elise Rigney, the guests that we've had on, Steph Wigner, like, dude, I would have
No
told you
way, yeah.
no way, no way.
Yeah.
But we put in consistent action. We didn't allow ourselves to get in the way. We reached out. We simply asked. Have we told people? People told us no or like not responded? Yeah, of course. But that's what happens, and
Yeah.
you got to keep going.
Yeah, we went I think from on our first episode to like 13 listeners to like a little over 3,000 downloads like over the
Yeah,
year. And we
yeah.
have like almost like
And that is all thanks to y'all. So continue to one tune in, but also continue to share with your friends. As this podcast grows, as you hit that subscribe button, we can do so much more. We can have on bigger and better guests. I know Spencer and I have our what are they called, like your white whales or whatever of people we want to have on as guests. And as you continue to subscribe and share with your friends, post on your stories, this podcast continues to grow.
yep. So that's good. Shout out, y'all. Peace.
Peace out. Overcome those walls.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.